G'day, my name is Wilfred West from Loch Sport, Victoria, Australia. Today's date is the 9th of the 4th, 2015, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's 14 degrees outside. And we're going to go for a quick drive from my place to Loch Sport Bakery, and then to the South Beach, then around Loch Sport. You need to see it's pretty sunny today. Absolutely gorgeous day. And yeah, we're going to go for a quick drive there. I like how when the lights come on in this car, it looks really good. See how it lights up blue, red and white. I just actually do like the look of that. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video, and just so please subscribe.
Producing a national response, we know that we must include, in fact, give priority to rural, regional and remote Australia.
An interim report will be handed to the government by mid-year. Overseas, one of the men behind the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013 has been found guilty of multiple charges to carry a death sentence. Zohar Shanayev was convicted of using a weapon of mass destruction to kill 3 people at the marathon and murdering a police officer several days later. His survivors said she was trying to move on with her life.
We're all going to move on with our lives, and we're all going to get back to some sense of normalcy, hopefully, when this is all done. So closure, I guess, I don't think so, only because it's forever a part of our life.
It's now up to the jury to decide on the sentence and whether or not the show Shanayev will face the death penalty. This defence lawyer explains the jury selection process makes death sentences more likely.
If you are opposing that saying you cannot oppose it, in a case such as this, then you're automatically excluded from the jury. So no one can have the jury express their conscience of guilt, and so there's the community saying they're opposed to the death penalty. Most of those potential jurors may be excused, and that raises a real concern about whether the jury that ultimately gets to the panel is capable of expressing the conscience of guilt.
Still in the US, protests have taken place against police brutality in the state of South Carolina, where a white officer has been charged with murdering a black man who was shot dead while he was running away. The demonstration was led by the group Black Lives Matter, which rose to prominence last year after a similar killing in Ferguson, Missouri. By a bystander on a mobile phone. There in North Charleston, where the shooting took place on Sunday, said the authorities will be holding talks with the community on account of the group relations.
On me and the city, what we're trying to do is make sure that the family has adequate time to put their son to rest. And after that, we'll start talking. We'll be working in the community to have open dialogue on policies that we have, looking for ways to develop a closer working relationship.
Basically on arresting people and putting them in jail, adding to the expense. It's only the third left of what really works, which is prevention and treatment.
Yes, in the announcement yesterday, it did seem that there has been a greater prominence given to the health and welfare issue in terms of as a contrast to the law and justice perspective on this. That's a positive.
There's a big positive, and I have to say credit to Mr. Fiona Ash, credit to the Prime Minister for emphasising that it is treatment and prevention that's going to be the major, that's going to bring about the major impact here. The evidence really does show that clearly.
Just finally, can I get your response to Jeff Kennett's comments yesterday in his capacity as the spokesman for Beyond Blue? He said, look, this is an important announcement.
together collaboratively, cast aside political differences and work together to strengthen the Australian economy and create more jobs throughout the nation.
That's the Treasurer Joe Hockey speaking ahead of that meeting in Canberra with state and territory treasurers. Meantime, the Prime Minister has also weighed in on the protests have taken place against police brutality in the US state of South Carolina, where a white officer has been charged with murdering a black man who was shot dead while he was running away. The demonstration was led by the group Black Lives Matter, which rose to prominence last year after a similar killing in Ferguson, Missouri. The incident was filmed by a bystander on a mobile phone. This protester says it was only the actions of a bystander that brought the latest incident to light.
What if there was no witness, or hero as I call him, to come forward? Then this wouldn't have happened.
Still in the US, and President Barack Obama has called for an end to psychiatric therapies that seek to change the sexual orientation of gay, lesbian and transgender youth. Conversion therapy is supported by some socially conservative organisations and religious doctors. Aid supplies have begun reaching Yemen after a series of delays as fighting continues and the humanitarian situation deteriorates. The International Committee of the Red Cross says it's managed to get supplies in the port of Aden, as the BBC's Imogen Foakes explains.
The ICRC has been trying to negotiate clearance for aid deliveries to Yemen for several days. Today, at last, permission was granted by both the Saudi-led coalition and Houthi rebel forces. A ship carrying a surgical team and medical supplies has now docked in Aden. It will be followed by 2 cargo planes going to Sana'a, carrying 48 tons of medicines and equipment for repairing damaged water systems. Aid agencies believe there are thousands of wounded requiring treatment in Yemen. The Red Cross said that big challenges remained.
Back home now, the biographer of the former Queensland Premier Campbell Newman says Mr Newman offered to stand down as LNP leader twice last year. Former Liberal National MP Gavin King is writing a book on Mr Newman's rise to power that's due for release later this year. He's told Fairfax Radio Mr Newman offered to stand aside after the Stafford by-election loss, and again in the lead-up to this year's election.
He's a pragmatist, he's a political pragmatist, and if it meant that the LNP would have won without him there, he would have done it. The course of Queensland certainly could have changed if that offer or both offers had been taken up at the time.
Victoria's freight industry has warned the state risks losing business if it doesn't boost the maximum load trucks are allowed to carry. The Container Transport Alliance wants the state government to consider an increase of close to 20% to 85.5 tonnes. The Alliance's Neil Chambers says the change would have many benefits.
These vehicle types spread the load across more axles, so they're more road friendly. The alternative, of course, is just more trucks on the road. The export commodities will still need to move. And if they're in 40-foot containers, they're not going to be carried onto one truck at a time, and that will instantly double the number of trucks per car.
Narrabeen Councillor Michael Clark says heavier trucks would destroy the infrastructure around the Port of Melbourne.
You take a look at Williamstown Road, the street go up there today, you've got nothing to do. Take a look at the impact that these smaller vehicles off the roadway actually move the surface of the road, so it does enormous damage.
Australia has handed over 4 koalas to Singapore as a gift to mark 50 years of bilateral relations between the two nations. Marsupials from Queensland's Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary will soon be housed at Singapore Zoo. Singapore's High Commissioner to Australia, Burhan Kapoor, says his nation is very grateful for the diplomatic gesture.
I have no doubt that the koalas will become instant celebrities at the Singapore Zoo. They will become very powerful symbols of our very close friendship. And more importantly, they will become ambassadors of goodwill. Perhaps one day, it is our hope that they might even become permanent residents of Singapore.
To the share market, the All Ords is flat in early trade after not much of a guide from the US.
They're going there on holidays, are they?
It's bang on $1,200 US an ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude is just above $50 US a barrel. The dollar is buying 76.6 US, 51.5 British pence, 71.2 euro cents, and 92.2
Give them Australia to
go to the sport. Yes, now with Wilfred Golf, the Australian Leishman was drawn from the US Masters starting tomorrow morning to be with the 6 wide. Leishman's wife Audrey is recovering from pneumonia. It reduces the Australian contingent to 5, including the world number 6 Adam Scott. fellow American Kevin Streelman won the event after beating Colombia's Camilo Villegas in a sudden death playoff. No winner of the par 3 contest has ever claimed the Masters title in the same year. In the AFL, Port Adelaide looks set to regain ruckman Matthew Lobb from a quad injury for Saturday night's home clash with Sydney. Power suffered a 7-point loss to Fremantle in its season opener on Sunday. And Jackson Trenko plays 100 games with the club. Says the Adelaide Oval crowd can expect a better performance with his side against the Swans.
I think we build ourselves up to playing big games, want to play in big games. So, I mean, this weekend, it's not only the 2 and dip, we do lose, but I think it's more we're in front of our crowd. You're not looking anywhere but in front of your own crowd, and we want to put up a really strong performance.
To rugby league now, and Manly coach Jeff Tooby isn't convinced about the NRL's move to strengthen its concussion policy to help better protect the welfare of players. New guidelines stipulate if a player shows clear signs of the condition during a game, he'll be taken off the field and not allowed to return. The NRL says the changes will hopefully make it easier for doctors to make what can be a difficult diagnosis on the run. But Tooby has told Loch Sport he's sceptical.
I really do have some concerns. They're going to have a concussion tent on the sideline, but the doctor has to review any possible concussions and make a decision based on that on the sideline they get the player off. So that without shame rules, they might take a player off because you think he may be concussed, 10 minutes on the sideline, get back on, he's not concussed, but because he needs him in the concussion tent, he'll come off. When you've only got a certain place for something to do, I think the doctors are feeling very threatened that if they don't take the person off, they're going to get fined or sued. That puts tremendous pressure on the doctor to say, oh, just get him off and we'll test him. Well, we'll look in the sideline, 10 minutes on the sideline. I think it's crazy.
The Gold Coast Titans say they learned some valuable lessons from last weekend's loss to the Brisbane Broncos. The Titans have lost 4 of their 5 matches this season and will take on the Eels in Sydney this weekend. 5'8" Aiden Cesar says the team needs a win to build confidence.
It's only early on the pitch, still a lot of footy ahead of us, and if the ball sort of fell our way in that first few rounds, we might have had a couple of wins and all, but we're not looking back on that now, and as I said, it's early in the piece and there's still a lot of footy to play, so hopefully we can get a Parramatta performance with.
Brumbies number 8 Jared Butler has warned his side not to be complacent ahead of its clash against the winless Blues in Auckland on Friday. The Brumbies are sitting at the top of the Australian Conference while the Blues have lost all 7 games this season. Butler says despite the Blues' awful start to the year, they are a dangerous side.
I don't think they've lost the game by more than 12 points, so they're on 7, but they've all been really tight contests, and we definitely know that. They've got so much strike power in the forward and in the back, so we know it's going to be a really tough game.
Currently 11 degrees, heading for a top of 20 and a partly cloudy day. Rain increasing for Perth, 23 degrees the forecast top. Right now it's 19. And in Darwin it's 24 degrees as we go to air. A maximum of 32 is expected and a humid day, mostly sunny. ABC News Radio mornings. It is 11:15 in the east, 10:15 in South Australia, also 10:15 in the Territory, and 9:15 in the west.
ABC News Radio headlines.
A cleaner at the school where missing Leeton teacher Stephanie Scott worked is today expected to be charged with her murder. The 26-year-old who taught English was last seen at the Leeton High School in southwest New South Wales on Sunday morning. And the Treasury Treasurer Joe Hockey is currently meeting with his state and territory counterparts to talk about the GST and its future, among other things. That meeting happening in Canberra. More details once the meeting wraps up and we get statements from the various participants. To Victoria now, where police are today expected to question a woman whose car plunged into a lake in Melbourne's outer west yesterday, leaving 3 children dead. A 1-year-old boy, a 4-year-old boy and 4-year-old girl died, while a 5-year-old girl is in a critical condition at Melbourne's Royal Children's Hospital. The 35-year-old woman who was driving the car was under police guard in hospital. She's since been discharged. Reporter Emma Younger has more.
Police have told us that it was a very harrowing scene down here yesterday afternoon when this car plunged into the lake at about 3:45. Many nearby residents came from their homes and ran into the water in an attempt to free the children who were in the car. The car was of course carrying 4 children, all aged under 6, so it was difficult for people in the water to see just who was there. They smashed through the windows, and by the time emergency crews were here, they were performing CPR. They said they performed CPR for some time. Tragically, one of the children died here, another died on the way to hospital, and another last night in hospital.
And what's the latest on her condition?
That 5-year-old who is in the Royal Children's Hospital remains in a critical condition. Now, the 35-year-old driver of the car, she was in hospital overnight under police guard. She's since been released, and she was to be interviewed this morning. They said that they were giving her some time to rest. In the meantime, there's been lots of locals coming down here this morning, many with their young children, to lay flowers and soft toys in tribute to those children who died yesterday. Now, a man who came down said that he was a cousin of the children who were, a cousin of one of the children's parents who were in the car, and he said that he spent last night in the hospital. Obviously just unimaginable what that family is going through right now.
I was at home yesterday and I heard more fire trucks and sirens than I normally hear, and I thought it might have been a grass fire. So I came down to have a look and I saw the car in the water. There was already a fire brigade members here and some police. They were trying to resuscitate some young children. And after, I reckon it was probably 5 or 10 minutes later, they must have realised there was another missing person, so they had dived into the water and were checking the car and around the reeds and stuff like that, and they did find someone under the water.
It's still very unclear how and why this car ended up in the lake. They were driving along a boulevard that is just beside me, and it's quite a wide road. There's no severe bends in it. It's a 50km/h speed limit, so a seemingly safe road. It's still, I guess there was about 10 metres between the road and the lake, so it's still very unclear why the car's come off the road and then made its way into the lake.
Our reporter Emma Younger speaking there. Let's go to Queensland politics now, and the political future of the minority government led by Anastasia Palaszczuk is a little clearer today. Billy Gordon, the independent MP at the centre of allegations of domestic violence, announced he would be staying on in Parliament, and critically that he would vote in support of the Labor Party. Gordon is the elected member for Cook, but resigned from the Labor Party following revelations of a criminal record and domestic violence offences. Gordon is as I said, the elected member for Cook. The opposition has been accused of playing gutter politics and of orchestrating a political stitch-up. The leader of the LNP opposition is Lawrence Springborg.
Billy Gordon's future was always a matter for him. I think there is no doubt that based on his character, he's not a fit proper person to be in the Parliament. And interestingly, going back a week or 10 days ago, the Premier herself said that she was prepared to put her premiership on the line and wanted Billy Gordon out of the party and also out of the Parliament. And only a week after that, the Premier is now desperately scrambling around, praying and hoping for his vote, which is now being delivered. So our position has been consistent all the way through. Billy Gordon's past is one thing. He's entitled to move on from his past. There's an argument as to whether he should have disclosed that to the Labor Party, but we're more more concerned about the current and present matters around non-payment of child support, not lodging tax returns for a number of years, and also very serious allegations of domestic violence. And they're matters that the Labor Party knew about for some weeks and didn't act upon.
I'll come to those in a minute. I want to come down to your call for the Premier to refuse to accept Billy Gordon's vote, because neither you nor Anastasia Palaszczuk can eject him, can force him from the Parliament under the rules. But it's also against the rules of the Parliament, isn't it? Rules that the LNP introduced, and you're trying to change those rules.
No. Well, once again, we've got a bit of revisionism going on here. No one argues that Billy Gordon, whilst he's a member of Parliament, doesn't have a right to vote. No one argues that at all. He has a right to vote in Parliament. It's a different issue whether we believe he's a fit and proper person to be in the Parliament, and indeed within his own constituency there are people who are embarrassed and not now voting, not now inviting him to community events or being a part of what they are doing. That's the level of embarrassment there. He is entitled to vote in the Parliament. No one argues against that. But what we now have is Queensland's version of the Craig Thompson affair, where every time he votes in the Parliament that is going to be a tainted vote. All we have said, Premier, is that we can actually change the voting procedures in Parliament so we actually know where Billy Gordon's likely to vote beforehand, so we're able to nullify that vote. It's not about saying that he doesn't have a right to vote. That's absolute nonsense to say that he doesn't have a right to vote. The Premier wants to talk about that, and not the fact that she's now relying upon his tainted vote.
Okay,
the
but
rules
from Billy
were
Gordon's
changed.
point of view,
The voting procedures were changed about 18 months ago with bipartisan support with the Labor Party because of the Parliament, where the LNP had a huge majority just to speed up the voting process in Parliament, where members just stayed in their own seat, and the whips just stood and basically indicated how many votes they could deliver. All we are saying is that we can go back to the old voting procedures where the ayes go to the right of the chair, noes to the left, so we know what's going on. So in effect, we can cancel out that vote. But it's very similar now to the Craig Thompson affair, where you've got a government that's basically clinging to power now on a tainted vote.
If, in terms of similarities of the debate around the Craig Thompson affair too, you're right, it's almost exactly the same debate to some degree, and part of that debate then, and it is now, is a duly elected member is entitled to stay in the Parliament unless convicted of a major crime, and if you refuse to accept their vote, you're effectively disenfranchising all those who voted for Billy Gordon. He says he's going to stand and deliver on the issues that he promises.
Queensland.
Well,
do you have that right? Why do you have that?
Now he can actually stay in the Parliament.
Queensland, fun place to visit, but no one wants to live there.
Vote, which is what you want to do.
My name's Wilfred West from Loch Sport, Victoria, Australia, signing off. Thank you for watching my videos, and all comments are welcome. You all have a great day now.